What's up guys, my name is Tom, welcome back to another video, and here back to my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. Today's time for episode 26 for the Dutch Grand Prix. If you haven't watched the previous episode of the Chinese Grand Prix, I highly recommend to go check it out. It was a very interesting race to say the least, with rain coming to play. But today we're going to focus on today's Dutch Grand Prix, which was very positive race in last season, so I'm expecting some good points at the end of this race. But anyway, we have three major upgrades that should be ready for this race, so we're going to jump massively in the performance chart where we find ourselves. But first we have a press interview with Buxton, so this interview is coming very early, I think, so without further ado, let's go talk to him.
Thanks so much for the invitation to your HQ. Let's have a little chat about the team's performance this season. Will your team be going for the Constructors' Championship this season, or just for points?
I mean, there's no way that we're going to fight for the first place in the constructors. Maybe next season, but at this moment we find ourselves in the middle pack, and if we develop well the car, I think we can battle for a few podiums this season.
Sponsors seem to be climbing over one another to get their name onto your car. What do you plan on investing that extra money into?
At the moment we have a very balanced car, and this means that we don't have weak points. The aero, the chassis and the engine are kind of equal in terms of performances, but I think I'm going to maybe look more forward to the reliability, which can play a very important factor, especially in the last race of the season where the grid penalties are a big factor.
At the moment, you seem to be a solid mid-tier team. What do you think will take your team to the next level?
Although I've driven this car so far this season, I think the best area that at least I feel in my driving style is the chassis. It is a very good one, at least for my driving style.
Would you say that it's important to develop your drivers as much as possible?
Yes, I always try to develop my driver as best as I can. In this case, it is Lando, but it's not just the money, not the quality that the driver already has. I always want to develop that driver because there's always a gap for improvement, and Lando shows that he is very young, but at the same time he is super good at this stage of his career.
Do you see your relationship with your second driver being long-term, or will you be looking for someone else if you're successful?
If he performs well, for sure that is going to stay our team. I want to grow with Lando, and definitely I want to see this as a long-term relationship. But to make that work, we need to invest a lot on our staff.
Well, thanks a lot for inviting us here. It's been fantastic.
The interview is done, and we are back to our headquarters. And as you can see, we have I forgot to mention that we have a chassis upgrade. It is ready, so I think our chassis department now it is a spec 2, so now we can have more than 2 upgrades at the same time, and the chance of failure is going to be I think around 20%, so it is definitely a huge improvement for the chassis department. But all 3 major upgrades are going to be ready for this weekend, so we're going to have probably a giant leap in the performance chart we're going to see in any time soon. But weather forecast, it seems that we're going to have some rain at the closing stages of the Grand Prix. So once again, a rain-affected Grand Prix, and let's see if it is going to give us a great race. But anyway, it is the performance chart, and we are just a pixel behind Renault, so this is the way to go. I have a good feeling of what is going to come during this season. If we keep with this development, I think we can be a very good contender for leading the midfield at the end of this season. But here we are on practice, just doing our things, and pace has been really good. I really like this track, Zandvoort, very flowing with a lot of elevation changes, and we'll see if we're going to give us a good race. In my F2 career mode, by the way, go check it out. Didn't give that much good racing, but in F1 I'm expecting better things. But anyway, it seems that we already have a race. We're doing the race strategy program, and we are side by side with Nick de Vries. He comes back, and I was just showing a little bit to you what happened in practice, just a little highlight going side by side with the Williams. But definitely this car is much faster than the Williams, so I think we are already not in the league of the Alfa Romeos, the Haases and the Williams' cars. I think we are already in the league of the likes of the Renaults and the McLarens, and that's what I want. I think finally we are out of the league of the slowest 3 teams, and we are starting to get into the midfield, and that's what I want. I want consistent points, and sooner rather than later I hope that Lando is going to start to score some good points, and I have a good feeling of that because I know that Lando is good, and that's the reason that it is in my team. But qualifying time, we'll see what he can do. I think it's not going to be much of a problem getting out of the first phase of qualifying. Area on our first lap is always a slow one, a banker, and then on our final run is going to be definitely a better lap, because I don't like to push on the first lap. I always like to get a feel of the car, of the lightweight, the Maxim engine, to see where I can put throttle early or later across the line. And for the time being, it is P7 ahead just of Kevin Magnussen, but we skip forward a little bit further into the session, and we are down into P19. So we need to make a good lap, but I have a good feeling because I remember that this lap was pretty bad. So join me on this lap for the entirety of this lap. Through turn 1 we go, and it was a very good run, already gaining half of a tenth of a second. And you can see that I really like this track. It's very flowing. Just look at the banking on this corner. It's very hard to lose the back end. Make sure that when you're accelerating and to be already in 4th gear, because it's so easy to lose the back end, especially when you're pushing a lot. Your lap can be ruined pretty easily. But anyway, through the fast flowing right-hander, already gaining just 1/10 of a second. So I think I lost a lot of time in the last one, if I'm not wrong, and in the second one you can see already gaining a big chunk of time as the checker flag goes out. And this part of the track, it is the one that I struggle the most against the AI. I don't know, the AI gets always a super traction out of there, and I don't seem to, you know, to get a good one. But anyway, through the final chicane, and you can see already gaining 4/10 a second. Now we have 4 corners to go, just a proper one, which it is this one. Now it is flat out through this long banking, the famous banking. The final corner, open the DRS, and now we just have to wait half of a second improvement across the line. It is going to be enough to get us through into the second phase of qualifying. Yes, it is. We are 14 fastest, and that is the way, a very good way to start our qualifying. And our teammate Lando Norris just gets ahead of Magnussen, which it is the first to be knocked out. So we are starting this weekend pretty good. It seems that we are on the level of the McLarens and the Renaults, which it was the expectable. So for the first time, the performance chart, it seems that is being kind of reliable. But anyway, we did our first lap. It was a lap with the set of boots that we used in Q1. In this second lap, we're going to use a fresh set and see what we can do. I don't expect big things. I think it's going to be really hard to get through to the top 10 shootout, but never say never, and we are already improving 5/10 of a second. So I was expecting actually to, you know, gaining a little bit of more time, but we'll see if this is going to be enough to put us into the top 10 shootout across the line. And I think it's not going to be enough, if I'm not wrong. The result is going to be anytime soon. There is P15, and we are out of qualifying. But generally speaking, it was a pretty good qualifying. I may be a little bit disappointed because I was expecting to be ahead at least of one of the Renaults, maybe Matsushita, because he's the slowest one at the moment. But definitely this is a very good sign of things to come. We are qualifying Norris by 4/10 of a second, so struggling a little bit in Q2. But now it's time for the race. It's going to be a completely different scenario. We're going to fit intermediates probably, most likely because we're going to have some rain, and maybe that is going to shake up the field. So I don't know, it's always a question mark when it comes to these tricky conditions. So without further ado, let's go to the race, the Dutch Grand Prix.
Welcome along then to the North Sea coast and Zandvoort, 25 miles away from Amsterdam, and the host for today's Dutch Grand Prix. It's a race the great Jim Clark won on 4 occasions, leading for an astonishing total of 370 laps. Zandvoort circuit, 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout a 2.6-mile lap. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's begin by discussing Daniel Ricciardo. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, and Verstappen, Stroll, Gasly, Sainz, and Alexander Albon, Matsushita, Ocon, Daniel Kvyat, Thomas, Norris, Raikkonen, Antonio Giovinazzi, and George Russell, De Vries, Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. Latifi and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Thanks, Jeff, and welcome, guys, to the Dutch Grand Prix, starting in P14 thanks to a 10th place grid penalty of Daniel Ricciardo. So maybe we're gonna have a good chance of scoring good points against Renault. It's going to depend on the first lap. Generally, my first laps are pretty good. We'll see if it's going to be the case in this race. Strategy-wise, it's going to be a one-stop, but Jeff was advising me to go on the mediums, but I think there's no way. I think the tire wear is not that high, and the guys, mostly the guys around us, are starting with the soft tires. So I'm going to stick with the default strategy and not with the alternate one. It's 2 seconds faster, and I had a better feeling on practice with the softer comparative tire. But anyway, it's time for the Dutch Grand Prix. We have a Aston Martin in the front row of the grid, and it slides out, and the way we go, it was an excellent start against Esteban Ocon on the harder comparative tires, side by side with the AlphaTauri of Kvyat, and it's been a pretty decent start, losing a little bit of back end, stepping a little bit on the curb, but we already gained 2 places. We have the Aston Martin going side by side with the Mercedes. Sergio Perez trying to take the lead of this Grand Prix, and we're trying to get P11 of Matsushita, try to go run inside, a little bit of wheel banking, but nonetheless we don't have any front-wing damage for the time being. That was really risky. Apparently we definitely made contact and we received the warning, but Matsushita going really slow, trying to go round the outside for the long right hand. It's going to be amazing if we can pull that move. Yes, we do, and that's us already very close to the top 10, to the point-paying position, I should say, and that was a superb move on the Alpine, and that's the way to go. And we have a way down the other Alexander Albon on the Red Bull. I don't remember if he has a great penalty, but I want to believe so, because it's very rare to see a Red Bull way down the other. But that was spectacular to see an Aston Martin almost taking the lead over Valtteri Bottas. Maybe we can see the Aston Martin and Sergio Perez's first F1 win, if we're talking about just of the career mode, you know. But anyway, we're going to press on, and it seems that Albon is very slow through the final corner, and we are side by side as we're going through the start-finish straight. Valtteri Bottas leads the way, followed by Perez, and then I believe it is Lewis Hamilton, but Sainz is going really slow, and we're going to try to pull around the outside, but it gets a good traction. So the AI seems to be really slow in these early stages of the Grand Prix, which is kind of weird. Generally they deploy a lot of energy in the first lap, so I was kind of surprised when I was doing this race to see the AI going pretty slow. But this is second place Sergio Perez, keeping the gap to Valtteri Bottas, which started on the medium, so no surprise that it was going side by side on the first lap. Probably got a banger of a start because it was on the softer comparative tire. And this is the other Aston Martin trying to take the position over Sebastian Vettel, but Vettel at the moment doing a pretty good job after a great podium on the Chinese Grand Prix in that underpowered Ferrari. I should say the Ferrari has a lot of trouble in the straight line, but for the time being he's keeping that very powerful Aston Martin with the Mercedes engine behind. But anyway, talking about our race, we're trying to keep the gap over Alexander Albon. We already broke the DRS window, so just to see that Albon at the moment in these early stages of the Grand Prix, in this first stint, is in some trouble, to say the least, and we're trying to close to Carlos Sainz and to this pack, which we are doing. So Vettel still, I think this little train is being formed by Sebastian Vettel, which is doing wonders with this Ferrari in these early stages of the season. But are we going to dive down inside of Carlos Sainz? That is very late on the brakes, but somehow we managed to make that move. No lockups whatsoever, and that is a superb move. In that car we have a little bit of cosmetic damage, you can see on our left side pod. So just to see that our start has been pretty adventurous, to say the least. and we have Matsushita that is struggling for pace at the moment, forming a little bit of a train, followed by Kvyat. Kvyat is trying to actually take the position through the first sector, and that is an amazing move by the AlphaTauri and our teammate Norris with a privileged view, but that is a superb move from Daniel Kvyat of Matsushita, and we can see up ahead Lance Stroll trying to get the position on Sebastian Vettel. So finally on the beginning of RP11, and Gasly has a poor run. He lost a little bit the back end, as you could see, and we're going on the inside, giving a little bit of a squeeze, trying to leaving a little bit of room, trying to be a little bit friendly, as we are still side by side, tiny bit of contact, but it's a spectacular move, and we took the chance, took the opportunity after Gasly making the mistakes. But we're going to watch the replay once again, because finally Stroll has a chance on Vettel, but Vettel actually managed to hold beautifully around the outside, and this was the mistake from Gasly. He lost a little bit of a hand, was too eager on the throttle, and that gave us a chance. I was pretty close. I decided to beat the bullet, to bite the bullet, I should say, and that is a pretty sweet move around that side. A little bit of contact. I could see that our car has a lot of damage on the side, but hopefully that is not going to be a problem for the rest of this race. But lap 12, we're going to pit on this lap. We're going to try to push because these guys are trying to get the undercut as I lose a little bit of the back end. So to see how much am I pushing on this lap. So definitely it is hammer time, as Hamilton used to do. Anyway, we're going to fit a brand new set of hard tires. This first stint was pretty good. We did some amazing moves, especially that one on color on both McLarens, the dive bomb on Sainz, and then that pretty sweet move on the second lap by going around that side of Esteban Ocon. But we're going to get out. We'll see where we're going to find ourselves. We're going to find ourselves maybe ahead of Lance Stroll. You can see that we are side by side. We receive a warning because we crossed the pit lane line. So once again, if we do that one more time, we probably can have a very harsh penalty, like a drive-through, because it's a very serious driver infringement. But at the moment, Perez is in second place. He already fitted the hard tires. This is Bottas is staying out because he started on the mediums. So if this depends on the pace. If Perez can get the undercut work, for sure that is going to take the lead of this Grand Prix, and we can have an Aston Martin leading the pack. That is absolutely crazy to see in Season 2. But anyway, we are very close to Albon, which he did the overcut because we are stuck behind Kimi Räikkönen at the moment. They're trying to get the position back around that side, but we can't do anything. That Red Bull is pretty good, especially chassis and aero speaking, and we are kind of under threat of Lance Stroll, and Albon now is finding a hard time to overtake Räikkönen, so being an absolute wall at the moment at Alfa Romeo. But we have a slow Mercedes. It is Hamilton. Hamilton, I think he made a mistake. I think I saw a little bit of an end plate on the barrier, and Hamilton, I think he bottled it, and I think he's not out of the Grand Prix, but he managed to keep going. But Hamilton made a mistake, and you could see that one of the end plates was missing. So definitely these first races of the season for Hamilton are not starting very well with poor results. I think at the moment he didn't win any Grand Prix, if I'm not wrong, but if he did, I think it was just one, because at the moment Bottas is going to be with a very comfortable lead, because basically now Hamilton's race is going to be over. We might see him overtaking in the closing stages, because that Mercedes is pretty strong. But Albon made the move, and they're trying to make the move on Räikkönen, which is staying out on those mediums, and that is once again a spectacular move, similar to what Kvyat did on Matsushita. And let's see the replay to see what happened to Lewis Hamilton. I wonder if he lost the back end like did Gasly slightly, and yes he did, and he hit the wall, and he lost that bit of an end plate, and basically that is race pretty much over to maybe score podium or top 5. And you can see Hamilton letting everyone through, and this is very rare to see Lewis Hamilton, reigning world champion, making a mistake. So maybe Hamilton's career is over. Maybe Rosberg is going to make a video. I don't know, but that is a very serious mistake from Hamilton. That actually was very surprised to see Hamilton making this mistake, because it is the best AI in this game, let's be honest. I think it is around 98, 97, so no wonder that I was surprised to see Hamilton's AI to make a mistake. But now this is the man, the leader of the race, Valtteri Bottas, fitting the hard tires, switching those mediums to the hards, and let's see if we're going to have an Aston Martin leading this race. I wonder if Sergio Perez is going to get overcut work. Bottas stayed out, but that Mercedes is pretty strong. There is Sergio Perez is going to take the lead. Yes, we have an Aston Martin leading this race. What absolute scenes of this Dutch Grand Prix, and you can see it has actually a very decent gap. Definitely definitely that is out of the DRS range, and Sergio Perez is leading the Dutch Grand Prix in the brand new Aston Martin team. That is absolute scenes in Season 2 on the 4th race, and now we'll see if he's going to carry this first place to the end of this race. And you can see that he has a lot of pace, buckets of pace by setting the fastest lap, and Albon made a mistake out of the first chicane. So definitely it's very surprising to see the AI making a lot of mistakes in this race, as we're going side by side, and we're going to try to go around the outside, going a little bit deep, going a little bit onto the tire marbles, but we managed to make the move, and we are up into 7th place. But absolutely crazy scenes to see Perez leading the way, and he might get a win, because at the moment it seems that he has buckets of pace, but you never know, because probably we're going to have some rain in the closing stages of the Grand Prix, and you can see the sky is getting darker and darker. Maybe the Mercedes can be an absolutely banger of a gun in the intermediate conditions. We'll see. He's an absolute cushion of Mark as we're going to make a massive dive down inside of Sebastian Vettel. What a beautiful move, like we did on Sainz on the first laps of the Grand Prix, and that is a spectacular way to get into 6th place. And I was sitting behind Vettel and Ocon for many laps, and Vettel was not making the move, overtaking opportunities on Ocon. So I said, okay, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to try to make the move and try then to overtake Ocon, because it seems that at the moment we have a lot of pace on the hard tires, which is not a very common thing for me to say, because generally I struggle a lot on the hardest comparative tire. But now Esteban Ocon decided to pull over, and he's going to fit the soft tires. Are you serious? That doesn't make any sense, because Jeff told me a few laps before that the rain should be around 5 to 10 minutes, and we have still some laps to the end of this Grand Prix. So we decided to fit the hard tires. And you can see on lap 25, on the same lap that Ocon pitted, he's starting to, I don't know if you can see on the video, but I'm starting to see a few drops of rain. So definitely we're going to fit the intermediates, and McLaren basically bottled the strategy, because definitely the rain is going to now start to get harder and harder, and we need to make another stop, and Ocon needs to make another stop. So he did one unnecessary stop, as Vettel lost a little bit the back end, as I'm starting to struggle a little bit. I think he tried to go on inside and he lost the back end, and now he is on trouble, more on trouble. It is Albon, Stroll I should say, that is under threat from Alexander Albon, as they're still going side by side. But I can tell you what happened. I was going so slow that Vettel took a chance to go on inside, and he ran a little bit too wide and it tagged my rear tire, and then he lost the back end, and that was the reason that he was still he was a little bit in trouble. But now you can see that in these very damp conditions, as Vettel tries to go run outside, I don't have any sense of grip on the traction and braking, and Vettel going very aggressively back at me. Fair enough, because we made contact. But anyway, Vettel gets back into 5th place, and actually it's the first time, because in 5th place was Esteban Ocon. But now the AI is so strong in the crossover point, so there's nothing that I can do. I'm really struggling for traction, and maybe even more Vettel, because he lost the back end. So a lot of the AI cars losing the back end in this Grand Prix, and he managed to, as my voice cracks a little bit, because it's been a banger of the Grand Prix, and Aston Martin leading, and now me struggling in these very tricky conditions. And Vettel, with that mistake, might be in some trouble, because Stroll is going to try to go run at that through the first corner, and will he be able to make that move? And it seems so. He's trying, and good traction from the Aston Martin, and gets that position back maybe, and Vettel doesn't have any pace at the moment, seems to be struggling, and maybe his tires are starting to fade away, and the Stroll is up into P6. But now Jeff is telling me that it's time for the inters, and I can agree with that, because the rain is starting to get heavier and heavier. At the end of lap 28, we're going to say goodbye to these hard tires and dress a brand new set of intermediate tires, and I think is going to be it. I think there's no need to fit in the wet tires. We have just 7 laps to go, and I think the rain is not showing to be heavy. I think it's going to be just light rain, and we're going to get out of it. It's a good stop for the points, and now what we have to do is just manage to keep the gap over Lance Stroll. We find ourselves at the moment in P6, because Kvyat decided to stay out on the harder comparative tires. So that is a very interesting strategy from AlphaTauri, to say the least, to be nice to them, because definitely Kvyat is going to fall down the other, because look how slow the AlphaTauri is. Definitely the strategies from the team bottled in this strategy, but I'm trying to go on the inside. I'm losing so much time with Kvyat, and finally we get released, but that was very scary to lose a bit of our front wing, and we remain in 5th place. But anyway, we're doing a thing, we're managing to gap to Stroll, and it's been a very calm stint so far, and I'm very surprised to keeping the gap over the other Aston Martin. At the moment we have another Aston Martin leading, which it is, and Sergio Perez is actually about to take his first win because he has a very healthy gap over Valtteri Bottas. But for us, we're starting our final lap, and now he's just bringing it on. We're going to score 10 precious points at the end of this Grand Prix. Talking about Lando, I think it is around P11, P12, so it's been a good Grand Prix for him. Definitely this is the way to go for our team. We're improving our car, and that's what we want. But guess who's the race winner? Sergio Checo Perez gets his first F1 win. Oh my, what a way to win his first Grand Prix.
Yes, Checo, P1, yes!
I'm speechless, guys. Good job, guys. Luis, asegúrate que Checo está viendo la carrera, por favor.
Amazing, Checo, well done.
Wow, just wow, what a way to win the Grand Prix. Amazing qualifying, front row start, and the strategy from Aston Martin was absolutely textbook. They played the strategy to perfection. He pulled away of Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes, set the fastest lap. Yeah, that was textbook from Sergio Perez, and the first win from Aston Martin. Congratulations to them, and congratulations for Tom Motorsport that is going to score 10 precious points at the end of this race. Great weekend.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
A difficult race then on a circuit that demands complete concentration, but they persevered to take the win here today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
The Racing Point team will be very happy with today's performance and the final result. Another display of excellent driving and excellent teamwork, and a well-deserved first-place finish.
Oh yeah, feels so good to see a team that is not a Mercedes. It's kind of a Mercedes, you know. Aston Martin relation with Mercedes, the car is similar. Anyway, it's so good to see a brand new team coming to the sport and win the first Grand Prix. Just in the 4th race of the season, there he is. Sergio Checo Perez wins his first race of his career. If we're talking about career mode, let's be honest, and for us is 10 precious points, and Lando Norris managed to cross the line in P12. Vettel just managed to slid out of the points, and I can tell you that he had an engine problem. That's the reason that he dropped a lot of positions in the intermediate stint. But championship standings, Bottas with a very comfortable lead, and Perez now super close to Hamilton, which he didn't score points in, didn't manage to score even a single point. So definitely it was a very bad weekend for the Brit, to the reigning world champion. And the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes leading the way, followed by Red Bull, and then Aston Martin getting pretty close. But for us, it is P6, and we jump McLaren and Renault at the end of this Grand Prix. So definitely, I think we can get P4 at the end of this year. It's going to be really hard. Ferrari already has a big gap against us, but never say never. And if we keep this development as we're doing in these first 4 episodes of Season 2, I think we can be a great contender to be leading the midfield. You'll see, you never know what can happen in this sport. But guys, that has been episode 26 of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to smash like, catch up to see plenty more Formula 1 content. It really motivates me to make more. If you could, that I would be very thankful as we climb our way onto the magical 1k subscribers. If you could do that, that would mean a lot for me. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Take care, and I'll see you guys for a brand new video next time.